Hello everybody, this is Phantom Phoenix and welcome to the first, and hopefully not the last, of my Let's Try series, where I play a game for a certain amount of time and then give you my thoughts and observations based on that. So it's something of a first impression kind of thing, with focus on specific aspects rather than the entire game. Today I want to talk to you about Interstellar Marines. It's a first-person shooter that's in an early access stage, even though apparently it has been in development for quite a long time. It got my attention thanks to taglines like, "This is an FPS that merges the best from tactical shooters with believable science fiction and role-playing." It's been advertised as an old-school tactical FPS offering a unique blend of co-op, role-playing and non-linear gameplay, with focus on realism. They've even called it a first-person simulator at one point, although I think they've accidentally left out the word shooter out of that, because a first-person simulator would be just a guy getting up in the morning, having breakfast, going to work, you know, that stuff. But anyway, those kind of keywords, like realism, old school, tactical, are the things that always draw my attention. Therefore I was so happy to see it was free for that 1 week on Steam, and even though I only had time to play it for a couple of hours, I did get a taste of that realism and old school mess. They've come up with some great innovations and very interesting mechanics, and those are the things I mainly want to tell you about. But let's start at the beginning. This is a classic FPS. It's a pure FPS. There's none of those annoying cover systems that switch between first and third person view and confuses the camera and the player. It's just you, the view of what's in front of you, with the gun in the middle of it. Simple as that. It has a single player mode, but it's only several separate missions that you can do, not a full-scale story mode or campaign. The main focus of the game seems to be on co-op and multiplayer. Visually, and not just visually, but in the way that shooting feels, this game reminds me of some older Monolith games with the Lithtech engine that I liked a lot. For example, Fear. Which for me is a good thing. The shots feel fast and responsive. If you play the Monolith shooters, you know what I'm talking about. Now about those mechanics. The first thing I noticed is the jumping. In this game, when you press space, you don't jump, you start a squat. The jump happens when you release the space bar, and the jump height depends on how deep is the squat, naturally. So if you keep the space bar pressed for too short, the jump will be very small, like a tiny little hop. But also, if you keep holding the space bar after squatting down as deep as you can, you start to stand up again. So if you hold the button down for too long, again, the jump will be too small or non-existent. So you have to time how long to hold the space bar exactly, which all makes a lot of sense from the standpoint of realism, but I imagine it would be a little hard to get used to. Simply put, the players are used to the jump happening at the pressing of the space bar, not the release. You know how in some shooters there are platforms that you need to jump to and from, when you have to run as close to the edge as possible and jump as late as possible in order to make the jump? Well, with this system, you would just fall off the edge, countless times, until you get used to it. Thankfully, there doesn't seem to be much platform jumping in this game. The second major change is that the weapons do not reload automatically. When you empty the clip, you can try to shoot all you want, but nothing will happen until you press that R button. Not even switching rifles will help. When you switch back, you'll still have an empty magazine. I personally love this. Instead of making us lazy, like most new games do, I prefer when they are making us think and take multiple factors in consideration simultaneously. Next, sprinting. In most games, you can sprint for a certain amount of time and then you'll stop. In this one, you can push your guy beyond the limits, but after a while you'll hear sounds of loud breathing, heart thumping, your vision will start to go blur, and you'll basically get dizzy. I didn't try to see how far he can go, I felt kinda sorry for the guy. So I don't know if you can give him a heart attack or something like that, but wouldn't that be, well, creepy but also cool at the same time? Moving on. When you start to shoot enemies around, you'll see that most of the time they will die from a single shot. You might think, hey, this is easy. But guess what? So will you. Yep. One-shot kills that work both ways. This will actually make you approach the areas tactically. You can't just run into a room guns blazing. Very often you'll get shot and you won't even see where it came from. Instead, you're forced to take as much of the enemies out from a distance, and when you do enter a room, you'll do it carefully, checking the corners like they do in the movies, maybe crouching and all that stuff. Speaking of stealth, enemies react to sounds and lights, so you should be careful about using your flashlight and laser sights. You can put a silencer on both guns, and I didn't even take it off, ever. I haven't seen any downside to using it. Some areas are pitch black and you can't see anything without the flashlight, which again makes a lot of sense, but I'm a little surprised to see there isn't any night vision or thermal vision embedded in your helmet, since after all this is a futuristic military setting. Also, one little thing they did, which they didn't have to do, but it's very thoughtful that they did. The heads-up display, which by the way is very minimalistic with tiny characters, which I like, which also reminds me of Fear, is actually a part of your helmet. So if you have your helmet off, you won't see any of that. So they actually justify the HUD, which most games don't do. Now, this is all nice and heartwarming, but I would really love to see all those things implemented in a full-fledged single-player game. I think they would be more useful and contribute a lot more there than in a game that's intended to be predominantly multiplayer. Speaking of multiplayer, one of the things I mind is particularly noticeable in a multiplayer match, which is a team versus team match, a lot like Counter-Strike and games like that, which I very much suck at, but I sucked even worse in this one, and that might have something to do with the poor level and player design. Most of the levels are, as you've already noticed, rather monotonous, mainly in grey and black shades, full of boxes for some reason. And it's very hard to actually see other players, to distinguish them from the surroundings, or to even distinguish your team members from the enemy team. Again, something that night vision might help with. But more importantly, distinguishable uniforms please, so that people don't keep killing their teammates. But the biggest problem I had with this game is that it's far from finished. After only playing for a couple of minutes, I walked through a door that led to absolutely nothing. I literally fell off the map and continued to fall endlessly. I felt awful, worse than Sandra Bullock in Gravity. A little later, I jumped into a part of the floor that wasn't really there. Just slipped straight through it. I tried jumping, crouching, walking around, nothing helped. And all this happened within the first 15 minutes or so. This would be understandable if the game was just in early stages, but the thing is, this has been in development for ages. According to Wikipedia, it first began 10 years ago. Apparently after some time they scraped the thing and started developing in a different engine, but still, 10 years! That doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in the developers. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that they are lazy or something like that. Maybe they just bit more than they can chew. And since we have this early access thing where you can give your money with absolutely no guarantee that you will not only get what you promised, but even get anything at all, we must raise the inevitable question. Will they ever be able to finish it? In this case, that question is very much justified. Therefore, I personally wouldn't give any money for it in the early access stage, at least not in the state it's in. You can if you want. Just be prepared for any outcome in that case. This has been Phantom Phoenix, thank you for watching, and feel free to leave a comment since this is the first video of this kind and feedback would be most appreciated. So, thank you again and hopefully I'll see you later. Take care.